Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Football on the Know Show. I am Jim McPhee, and of course, there he is, Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odals? How's it going?
Hey, it's been a little while, right?
It's been a little bit of, little bit of time, right? But welcome to the show, guys.
We've had our ups and downs, especially me, man. Like this whole
mostly
month of,
downs than ups.
This year so far has been terrible for me. I mean, had every sickness under known to man. And right at the playoff time when we need to be on here the most, and I had so much to talk about, and at points I couldn't even talk. Some points I was throwing up. I mean, it's nuts. But we are here now. I'm excited. Tomorrow night we're gonna find out with NFL honors who gets what and this. Eli Manning gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm excited for that, Joe. So I mean, it's media week. Super Bowl's on its way. I'm not happy about the teams that are in here. Obviously, probably a lot of people know I've talked about this, and then no, I hate the Eagles. Joe's not a fan of the Chiefs, and even though the media is still painting them out as the villains and this, I get that too. But I'm kind of on that same wavelength of I don't really like them. I want to see somebody else, and I get it. They win. They're a pretty good team, but they've been able to be opportunistic at times, if you want to say that, if that's being nice, this whole season, and still managed to make it there. So I'd hate to see them get a three-peat here, be that one franchise that has the three-peat here, one of those dynasties. With this group of people here too, where they just seem like a bunch of punk pompous asses.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that, but before we do, just want to welcome you guys back to the show. If anybody...
Welcome back. I hope you guys didn't leave us.
I hope you didn't just leave and to never return. That would be very upsetting. But listen, in all seriousness, thank you guys so much for the support that you've shown us this past year. It's been an amazing ride. This is our 7th year, going on our 8th.
Yeah,
we're getting closer and closer to a decade in this show. But hey, you guys can further support this show. Tell all your friends, your family members, everybody that you know, head over to YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up while you're there, share it to all your family and friends, like we said. And you can also, if you feel like it, if you really want to go on an extra limb here, you can head over to X and follow us there as well at FB_no. But Jim, we got a lot of topics to get to here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, like these are some of these topics nobody's covering. Like there's a couple of topics that we're going to be talking about that nobody's even talking about yet. So we're going to dive right into those. But before we do, we got some big trade news.
That's right. Get right into it, Joe. What do we got? It's Myles Garrett, that's the big news right here. He comes out to request a trade here from the Cleveland Browns, which it's no real surprise to. I mean, he's getting up there in age, 29 years old. He's looking at his future now, too, with the season coming to an end for them and not getting where he wanted to be, looking at his legacy right now. He's also said and stated out there, hey, I don't want to be a Hall of Famer. I don't care about the money. It's about getting a championship, and that's what I want to do. I want to be. But he also understands that he doesn't have a no trade clause either, though, in this, Joe, so he could be potentially get traded anywhere. And with the money situation here, too, it's a little rougher for them to figure this out for Cleveland. But there are definitely suitors and teams that can afford to pick up some money here if they had to or whatnot to get a Myles Garrett, especially if they think they're one of those contenders like he wants to join.
I don't think it's necessarily just a contender that he wants to join. I think he's sick and tired of being in Cleveland where they continually to lose all the time, no matter what moves they make. They make a lot of bad decisions. And I think he's grown to the point where now that he realizes, all right, I'm 29. I'm still in my prime. I still am consistent. I'm one of the best pass rushers in the entire league. I have double-digit sacks every single season.
Yeah.
So I want to go to a place where, yes, typically he would love to go to a contender for a Super Bowl. Obviously, that's always the goal for every player that is in the NFL. But more than not, and this is going to be a big deal with the team, depending on who they decide to trade him to, because like you said, he doesn't have a no trade clause, so he can't like have that leverage and be like,
Here's my
well,
list.
I don't have to go here or I want to go there. So now it comes to the point where he's made his trade request. Andrew Berry, the GM himself, said there's no way we're trading him. Like he came out publicly and said, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not even looking to trade him, nor are we interested. But now that Myles Garrett has come public, he puts pressure on the Cleveland Browns organization to make a move. Now, it seems like more times than not when players do this, it goes both ways. Sometimes it's a contract issue. They want more guaranteed money because he doesn't have any more guarantees on his deal. So there's no like real security. He's not going to be guaranteed a certain amount of money to stay there. So could that be it? But on the other hand, it's, being on an organization where he's giving his all. And for what reason? Like they don't ever get close to the playoffs. They're not even able to even get even with arm's reach of the Super Bowl. So he's looking to go to a team, I believe, that is either competitive, like really competitive team that can give him a chance to eventually get to the Super Bowl or playoffs or whatnot. Or, it's one of those things where he just simply got fed up with everything and he wants out. And at this point, it's going to be up to the organization on exactly where he goes. So you mentioned the cap number. Browns are due to be over $30 million in cap space this offseason, which that's a lot of money, but it's not impossible. They can do something with the finances to kind of make the deal work, and that way they'll save at least a little bit of money. His cap number for 25 is $19 million, and then 26 is $20. So you have the money there. So we all know that there's a lot of variables with what team is going to get married to that player and consummate a trade. How much of a trade compensation are you going to be willing to give up? What can the Browns get for him? And when you look at some of the past trades that have happened recently, you look at like a Von Miller in 22. The Broncos received a second and third round pick. Von Miller at the time was 33 years old. In that year in 22, he had 9 sacks. Jason Pierre-Paul in 2018 was traded for a third round pick, and they swapped fourth round picks to the Buccaneers. He was 29 years old, same age as Garrett. He ended up having 13 sacks in 2018. So you can see that some of these trades, and even Brian Burns, that's another huge name. The Giants acquired him. They gave up a second and 2 fifth-round picks for a 26-year-old pass rusher who ended up in this past season and had 9 sacks. So you're seeing that it can work out for other teams, even though maybe like a Von Miller who happened to be 33, Jason Pierre-Paul who was 29, same age as Garrett. It can work for both sides. The team trading him away is going to get compensation, and the team getting him, they get that talent. Now, I would argue that Myles Garrett is better than any of these guys that got traded, and that's where we kind of play with the idea of trade compensation to start off with a first-round pick.
Yep.
And it's going to depend on whatever teams are interested and are willing to give up a first-round pick, where are they picking in the draft? And that is going to dictate how much more, or maybe it'll only cost just a first-rounder. Depending on if you're picking in the top 10, maybe we'll just say, for example, maybe you only have to give up the first, or maybe you give up 2 seconds, something of that nature. The lower you go down the draft order, if you get to the 20s and 30s, then maybe you have to give up a little bit more or a lot more just to acquire him.
Right. That's why I think the Commanders makes a lot of sense again, too. You've got the young quarterback here, Jaden Daniels here, too. Now, it's probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year. And again, you're not paying him. You saw when they made a late push in the playoffs this year, what were they missing? They were missing that kind of guy on defense here, that
100%.
pass rush, stuff like that. They could use somebody like that. So they're picking late in the first round here. That's going to be value absolutely to get a guy like a Myles Garrett here to add on this. And they have cap space on top of it.
Yeah,
so,
third most.
So they're right there, and I think that's a very a good spot for him too. That can kind of be that contender that he's looking for, at least a team that was winning this year, knows what it's like here. We've got a bunch of comments here up here. Let's get to them, Joe. What do we got?
What's going on? We have know-it-all Jeremy Hasseline. He said Myles Garrett to Buffalo, ?
I don't think so.
I think it's an option.
Oh, they're over the cap. I mean, they're going to try
They're
and get
only-
it down,
listen,
but
they're
still,
only
but I think they need more than
They're only
Myles
over
Garrett.
by $12 million, and they don't. And Von Miller's not the guy.
No,
we all
we
know that, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I don't think he was even brought in to be the guy.
he was
though.
supposed to be their super stud, and pass rusher. Like that's why they traded for him, is to continue that trend that he had going with the Broncos, and it just hasn't worked out. He's had a major injury. He came back from that major injury and just isn't the same. The Bills make a lot of sense to me because they are still in search of that kind of high impact type of pass rusher that they can rely on to create havoc in the backfield. So even though they're over by $12 million, that's very, very easily to get back underneath with reconstruction. Maybe Josh Allen, they can, work some magic there and create a lot more cap space, and then other moves that they can make as well. So I think that's definitely attainable. And I think it would be a good idea for the Bills because they are one of those teams that are contending, that seem to be on the cusp, but they always seem to fall short to the Kansas City Chiefs every year. Tom Leiter, what's going on, brother? OG know-it-all himself. He replied to Jeremy, said, do they have cap space? And we just talked about it. Leiter also said, he goes, Garrett is worth 2 first-round picks in his opinion. And he may be worth 2 first-round picks, but the Browns are not going to get 2 first-round picks.
That's what probably the conversation is going to start off
because the Browns have already publicly stated that it starts with 1 first-round pick, and then they have negotiations from there. So unless the Browns came out and said, it's going to start with 2 first-rounders, and then we'll talk, and try to hold their stance. But here's the thing, is whenever we get into these trade negotiations, and everybody wants to get the most compensation as possible, obviously, but with the draft picks now, in this new era, are so incredibly valuable to teams that you don't typically get what you used to get back in the day. If Garrett was 20 years ago going to be up for trade bait, then you could definitely ask for two first rounders, maybe even get a second and a third on top of that, and then it's a blockbuster trade like that. Nowadays, the draft value of each pick is so high at this point that teams are reluctant to give up those high picks. So if the Browns, now they come in, they start with a first round pick, and that's going to start the negotiations, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But then it's going to scale down, and it's going to change based on what team, where they're trading from, and how much more or less compensation is going to be required. So I think he's worth 2 first-round picks. That used to be the going rate for superstars like this, but I don't think anymore. I think you're going to end up seeing a team start with the conversation of first round. Now, it's also going to be dictated by how many more teams are going to be lining up to compete, to negotiate, to try to, outdo each other in negotiations to acquire Myles Garrett. The more teams that are involved, the higher that asking price is going to be. And if you look at the draft rankings right now, teams that are picking from 8 to basically 18, all of them are in need of a pass rusher.
Yeah.
All of them. So you think about that and you're like, man, So every single one of those teams that are on, in the first round thinking about this, are they a pass rusher away to like getting over the hump? I think you might see teams being willing to give up a little bit more to acquire him. But then on the other hand, there's other teams on that list there that they're not just a pass rusher away. They need 4, 5, 6 more players. So maybe they might be a little bit more reluctant to make a move. Mm-hmm. They're going to definitely check in. There's no doubt about it. In the NFL, all these teams that are at least a little bit interested are going to call Cleveland and be like, hey, what are you looking at? Who are you talking to and how much are they offering? Like, could we outdo them? They're going to have all those conversations, and we're not going to hear anything close to getting a trade consummated until we get closer to the draft. Mm-hmm. Because right now teams are focused on free agency at the moment, and you got some of the teams that are just starting to acquire their full coaching staff. And then after the free agency period, then they're going to be looking, I mean, they're looking now, but they're going to be more concentrated on the draft too. So unless a team that is maybe picking a little bit lower or something where they're like, hey, we could add Myles Garrett. We don't care what the cost is. And this is definitely going to put us kind of right up there with anybody else. So it's going to be intriguing to see what teams might inquire about him. Now, you mentioned the Commanders to me is probably the favorite of mine, in my opinion, is not only do they have third most cap space this offseason, but you have a young offense with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, soon to be his second year coming up. He had a phenomenal year. So now you look at that, as if you're Myles Garrett and you're like, man, I hope Washington calls because they got an up-and-coming team. I can go over there and I can really help that defense out because that defense struggled. We saw it. They need guys like Myles Garrett. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Another team, too, is the Patriots. Now you're going to say, like, oh, they're not a contender yet. No, but they got something brewing with Drake May. Now, they got a lot of work to do still, of course, but they also got a lot of money. They might be willing to go a little bit further than most to acquire him. And that's a team that I feel like if they make the right moves and make the right decisions in one offseason, they'll be very competitive next year because they have that quarterback. They need weapons. They need an offensive line. But you bring in a Myles Garrett, I mean, it would be nice for them. Other than that, I mean, you look at some of these other teams, you think about
maybe, I mean, ultimately, yeah, he wants to find a team that can win. I know some of these teams that are picking high in the draft, yes, they could use a pass rusher, but they're not going to invest a first-round pick on Myles Garrett. So
you might be surprised.
I would be surprised.
You might be surprised.
Like you said, because they need more than like a pass rusher is going to change the team, the direction of the team or where they're going.
But think about it this way.
So they're not going to mortgage a first-round pick for like that. That's why, again, I'm thinking a first-rounder out of one of these other contenders that are there that could still use that piece to kind of traject themselves further into the playoffs or over the hump or just even past the Chiefs at this point. But I don't think, any of these teams that are picking early on, if it is, unless it is like the Patriots, who need a few different pieces here and are missing that kind of pass rusher, which they had one, but, they traded him away to Atlanta, and that's Matt Judon. So.
And that's fine. But here's the thing. This is why it makes sense, is because look at this draft.
Well, now they don't have to draft a quarterback right now, which I get that.
The draft that's coming up is not a very strong draft on the top end in terms of these high-end, weapons. Like they could go Ted McMillan, the projected number one wide receiver in the draft. They could very well go that route if he's there. Who knows? We don't know how the draft is going to unfold. But what's to say is you use one first-round pick because they're picking so high is you only have to give up that first-rounder, and that's it. And you acquire a stud like Myles Garrett, and then you draft the rest of your team. Free agent signings because you have $120 million. You got the most cap space this offseason. You could really do some damage. And it only comes down to what compensation maybe the Patriots are willing to offer a little bit more. Like you give up that high third overall pick. That screams volumes over anybody else that might be willing to give up a first. And it might be really enticing for Cleveland to go back-to-back with draft picks at 2 and 3. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And you got teams also like the Detroit Lions who it would be an absolute dream, an absolute dream for Detroit Lions fans if they were able to pair Aiden Hutchinson with Myles Garrett
on top of absolutely.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
And right now, currently, they have $46 million under the cap that they can definitely take on that contract now, and not have to even make any moves to do it. I think that would be something to watch for. But how much is the Detroit Lions willing to give up? Because they're not picking high. So they'd have to give a first. They'd have to give a second, And who knows what
Tom
else.
Leiter says Seattle got a golden boy in Murphy. Garrett is 2 Murphys, he thinks, in his opinion. And also Christian's in the house with us tonight, too. Pleasure seeing him out there.
What's going on, Christian? Said, does Eli get into Hall of Fame tomorrow? Yes.
Yes.
We definitely have covered that. And
he's in.
There's
I'm
no
excited.
argument.
I can't wait.
There's no argument.
Yep.
You can't make an argument for him not to be in the Hall of Fame.
No, and what's kind of funny how it all laid out into this thing too. I feel like there's no other quarterbacks that fell into this year that were able to kind of compete with him too, to kind of even go in with him. You know what I mean? So out of the grouping that he's kind of going in with, it's like he's a standout right there. So it made it that much easier, clearer picture. To where it's been the debatable question around the bar, around the water cooler, is he, isn't he, blah, 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 first ballot, this and this. And here it is. I mean, look at the group that, that he's amongst in the finalists, and he is a standout right there. So he's in. He's going in this year. Unless there is some, again, journalists out there, again, these diehards that feel like, I feel like he's a Hall of Famer, but he can't be a first ballot, so I gotta, pick against him or something like that. Which you do have some of those, but I mean, I don't see it. He never rubbed media wrong ever. He's always been a media darling and things like that. They like him. He's funny, easy to get along with. I think he strolls in here. It's going to be amazing. I'm
that wouldn't even bother me at all. It's something that has to happen, really. When we compared all the Hall of Famers that were up for the final votes, it wasn't even close.
Tom Leiter says Eli beat Brady twice. He's in.
There you go. Absolutely. With that logic, it makes all the sense.
That stands for something. Because
hold on. Eli didn't beat Brady. I got to be perfectly clear.
He didn't beat Brady. He beat the Patriots.
Yeah. That's the thing is it wasn't mano-y-mano.
Yeah, that's why I think it's hilarious.
We're gonna have a gunfight, and it's not one of those things. So I don't like when the media out there kind of tries to put both quarterbacks against each other. It's Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts this week. No, it's not. It's the Eagles versus the Chiefs. It's a team game for a reason. You can try to make all the narratives you want, but let's be logical about this. Christian just commented. He goes 18-1 giant loss, baby.
One giant loss.
One of the greatest days of Christian's life, he says.
Yeah, that was amazing. Because I remember watching that too when it happened. I'm just watching it. I'm like, oh no, here we go. Because Christian knows how many times have we seen this to where the game's on the line even too, and the Giants are there, and it's some ridiculous the play is destroyed, almost like the Buffalo Bills in this last one against the Chiefs. The play is dead once it starts, and you're like, no, what the hell? He's going down. And he somehow musters it out of there, and it's a catch, and you're just like, wow. In today's day and age, too, where you didn't know what a catch was, and where he had possession, there it was, and it was amazing. And I was going to say here, too, a good way to kind of put it, I guess, when you're kind of to look at quarterbacks, too, and how good they are, too, and when you look past even championships and how many they have won, what do they do when they are in the big game? I noticed, even when Brock Purdy was in it last year, when pressure was on, he didn't really step up and kind of make some of those plays. Eli, again, did. And the team wasn't even a super duper team. They both stroll in here, with a 9-7 record both times. I think they went in. And they had really good defense, which we get to, but Eli Manning leading them on game-winning drives, that's what creates a Hall of Famer. Being able to do that when it's crunch time, when the team needs you the most, you step up and stand out, and that's what's the difference maker.
Tom Leiter has a question. He said, why is nobody talking about Reed facing the team that fired him for not winning a championship?
Right? Yeah.
We're going to get to
nobody
that.
Talks
We're
about
going to get to
right?
that.
Right?
We're definitely going to get to that a little bit later in the show. But for right
We
now,
will.
like we just covered Myles Garrett.
So, yeah, let's talk about the next trade,
You know,
potentially.
right. Right, potentially. You know, Packers are another team that's kind of on the cusp that could maybe go after Myles Garrett. So it's something to watch for. It's definitely, I would anticipate an NFC team would be more in favor of Cleveland trading him away too, because obviously different conference. You don't really have to face them that often and all that. But we'll see. We'll see.
But we've seen stranger things happen.
Yeah.
All right. So again, Cooper Kupp reveals to everybody too that
can't stand it.
Yes, that
Hates it.
he is on the trade block here. The Rams are looking into things.
Not his choice.
But it is a little more difficult for the Cooper Kupp situation here too, and it's tough too because Cooper Kupp is like one of those guys, like you see the talent on the field too, and what he's his ability, route running, catching, astronomical, but with the injuries that he's had, he's only accumulated 2 seasons over 1,000 yards. It's kind of surprising too, and you're like, wow, well, really, he's so good, but again, just because he can't stay on the field too, and with the fact that Puka Nacua, emerging as, Matthew Stafford's like new number 1 type of guy here, and the guy on the scene, they don't really need a guy like a Cooper Kupp anymore and things. So, but it is, again, with money-wise and tied up, it's going to be a tough situation here moving forward for the Rams.
Absolutely. And this is something that shouldn't be a shock to Rams fans because they've seen it firsthand. They've seen Cooper Kupp going down with injuries, multiple injuries during seasons, missing significant time. 31-year-old wide receiver at this point. Once you eclipse 30 as a wide receiver and the fact that he's been injured so often, it's you can tell he doesn't have that burst of acceleration like he used to have. He's still quick.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the top end speed like he used to have. You can just tell the injuries have taken a toll on his body. And with the cap number that he has, which happens to be more than Myles Garrett, and 25, due to make $29.7 million, and then in 26, $27.3 million, that's a lot of money to be throwing to a 31-year-old wide receiver. And in doing so, in order to consummate a trade for the Rams, they have to absorb at least the $7.5 million in guarantees that are still owed to him. They have to make it a little bit more attractive for teams to give up a draft pick for him. And you might say, well, Cooper Kupp, he's still decent. No, he's still a good player. But I only think you're going to have to give up a 4th or 5th round pick for this guy because of his age and because of the injury history that he has. It's going to be a mid-round pick. That's all you're going to have to do. Now, teams like the Bengals are going to be interested because there's still a little bit uncertainty with T. Higgins. Is he staying? Is he going? The Steelers obviously need more wide receivers. Commanders, the up-and-coming team we mentioned earlier. Chiefs, who seem to always be looking for that position. Patriots are in dire need. They're desperate at that position. And then you could even throw in the Detroit Lions or the Baltimore Ravens, who always seem to be looking for the next big thing, in that department.
Or they grab just somebody who might do something again, potential. It's a low risk, good reward. This Cooper Kupp thing really seems to me, it's a lot like kind of OBJ, in a sense. You know what I mean? He's got some moves, still some ability there. Injury prone, but again, I don't think anybody's going to pay him anything here, and he's going to try and find himself and latch on after they cut him. I don't think they're going to be able to trade him. So
they can't cut him.
I think it's either that or whatever, but I don't think they're going to get.
They
trades.
can, but they're not going to.
They're not going to get anything crazy for him. And like I said, he's going to want to try and go somewhere where he can make something happen. But I don't think it's going to be a big. He's not going to add a whole lot to a team.
He'll be a decent ad for any team, but the contract is the contract. It's not like whether you cut him or whether you trade him, you're saving anything of significance differently. So they're going to be looking to trade him, and I don't think they're going to cut him because then they get nothing for him. Like, they're going to hold out, and I think that they're going to be able to consummate a trade. I really do. It'll be for a mid-round pick. It's not going to be for anything crazy, like we mentioned earlier. But I think he's still a decent receiver. Now, the big question mark for him is, can he stay healthy going forward? And that's the big risk. That's where the negotiations are going to kind of really be laid out between two teams.
I'm sure there's going to be a few conditionals on that then.
I think only going to be one conditional because it's only going to be one pick.
Yeah.
And if it, let's just say, for example, whatever team does decide to trade for him, they're saying we're going to give you a conditional 6th rounder.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It would be a conditional
and
pick.
If he starts
all
year,
if
he starts all year, then that moves up to a 4th round pick.
Right.
Something of that nature.
Yes, yeah.
So I just think that Cooper Kupp is still a good player, still can really help out a team, but it's going to be one of those tough sells because of his age, because of the injury history.
Tom Leiter on Cooper Kupp
said Kupp is a slot receiver. Houshmandzadeh was a slot receiver who never amounted to much here in Seattle. That's because he was at the end of his career.
Yeah.
He said slot receivers are the fullback of running backs.
Oh, man.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, because I'll tell you this right now. There's guys that play in the slot, even in Seattle, in Jibba. Smith and Jibba has been balling out for Seattle. So I don't think the slot receiver position is going to be going away anytime soon. I think it's still a critical part, especially in this high-flying passing league that we live in now, where every receiver is important. If you got 4 really good receivers, you're doing pretty good for yourself. So
Right. Well, if you got the depth like that, too, that's the thing with Seattle, too, when you got Njigba here as your slot receiver. I mean, that's a good thing. Like, sort of like the way the Bengals are, but not for long with T. Higgins, and T. Higgins looking to move on now, too, because they don't want to pay, a slot receiver, that they have, right now.
Right.
Let's get to Christian's, his comment, too. Why not? Because it is the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59 is coming up, too. He posted a good question here. What do you guys think out there? Let us know in the comments. Where does Reed rank in all-time coaches now? Has he passed Bill Belichick?
No,
I don't think so either. He's there. I mean, and it's kind of funny when you think of these coaches and when teams decide to move on from them, right? You've gotten so far, with when he was with the Eagles, they made it to the Super Bowl, but then unable to win. For Philly, it was saying, hey, all right, we need a change. Time to go. See you later. And you let that coach go, and lo and behold, here he is now with the Chiefs after a few years of Alex Smith and whatnot, getting Patrick Mahomes, and now look what he's doing here, and he's on his winning ways. And if you almost think sometimes if you're with the Philadelphia Eagles, like, oh, if we maybe only stuck it out, this is maybe what we could have even done here. But yes, he is one of the best. I'd say one of the all-time greats, too, because he's a guy, just like Bill Belichick, who studies the game. He's a fan of the game. He loves the game. And that's what those coaches are the ones that really stand out.
So Andy Reid is nipping at his heels at the moment. Bill Belichick is deemed as third ranked overall.
Who's number one?
Don Shula.
Don Shula.
Don Shula has more wins than anybody.
Yes. Yeah.
His loss category is crazy. It's only 328.
Yeah.
Or I should say, 156. The win total is 328. When you look at, let's see, championships, he's only had 2 championships, Don Shula. But again, you can't just say, oh, well, he won more Super Bowls, so that just makes him the best coach ever.
I don't know, though, because, again, it's you keep a team that dominant for so long. I mean, Bill Belichick has done this crazy, dude.
We could throw in the fact that Don Shula is the only one that's coached a team to be undefeated.
We get that.
We
get that too.
If we want to be
even a season, though. If you want to be nitpicky about one season,
right.
I'm talking about a decade plus.
Yeah, I mean, but Don Shula in the era that he coached in, you can't really compare them.
I don't know. There's
George Halas is second.
I mean, then you're talking about all different areas. All the eras are different.
Right. That's what I mean. That's why you can never say.
Well, I wouldn't say that Shula's era is better.
You can never say any one person is the best. You can't.
Right.
Because there's too many variables.
I get that.
Bill Belichick is third. You know, he has 302 wins, 165 losses, but the championships, he's got 6, 9 conference wins.
So they're doing their rankings of wins, right? Is that how they're ranking it? And who is this? Is this Pro Football Reference?
Yes.
Pro Football Reference. Just to let you guys know, just in case where we're getting it from. Christian says, I guess I wasn't really around for Don. Yeah. A lot of people weren't, and that's the thing. And you get what you kind of hear from what people, stories
you're talking
people
about,
told, and every time they bring up the stats too.
You're talking
the 72 Miami Dolphins too, and what they were.
Yeah, you're talking about Don Shula, 1963 to 1995. He coached.
Don't even know who George Halas is, and he spelled it wrong too. But
that's okay.
yes, no, not you, him, but the Christian. But yeah. So that's the thing. People don't. But I mean, I say, hey, do yourself a favor and try and research it now with what you could do with Google and everything else. So you could find some of the games.
George Halas, none of us saw him coach. 1920 to 1967, he coached.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, obviously everyone knows him, 1991 to 2023.
Yep.
And Andy Reid, 1999 to current, and still going. He has, so let's just say Bill Belichick has 302 wins and 165 losses, compared to Andy Reid, who has 273 wins and 146 losses. So Bill's still, in terms of winning and losing, Bill's still ahead of him. So, I mean...
And it's all what you look at, too, though. Because if you look at it, it could go either way. Skewed because the seasons are different. The season's longer with Bill Belichick than what it was with, Don Shula, too, as well. Or Hollis, for that matter, too. So you can look at wins and losses in different scopes that way.
I mean, Don Shula and George Hollis coached in an era where there was only like 12 games. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There really wasn't that many games.
Right.
There was a lot of seasons that they coached, but not as many games. And now you're looking at Bill Belichick and Andy Reid that are coaching more games than any head coach has in a single season. So it's pretty crazy.
Yep.
Let's see.
Christian.
What would Bill's legacy be if he goes down and wins a national championship?
If he wins a national championship, though, with like North Carolina, I think that is ridiculous.
I mean,
I don't
think
the last time North Carolina sniffed like a national championship.
But here's the thing.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
That's
that
college football, though.
Astronomical.
Like
no,
for
I
me,
get that. I don't think that changes his Hall of Fame status.
His legacy is already one of the best to ever do it.
Right.
And everybody understands that. But just because you win a national championship, that doesn't all of a sudden make you like, oh, well, that definitely puts him over any coach ever. Like, no.
I'm intrigued in how it's going to go down, really, because I don't know how it will.
I'll tell you this right now.
He's going to try and get a lot of recruits, and people will want to kind of go there. But
he already is.
But still, with the players, the way they react now and things like that, and his hard-nosed, old-school ways, I don't know how that translates right now with players. So maybe, I'm saying.
I'll tell you this right now.
If it works out,
college football is different, way different. You don't have a draft pick to select a player. You have to recruit them. You have to basically convince them to come to your school. Your school's the best for them and the best decision they'll make, and they'll have a great career, and he'll get them to the NFL. Now, I'll tell you this right now. Bill Belichick, just by his name, the legacy that he has behind that name, he's got recruits leaving other schools to come be coached by him. So I think the recruiting aspect is not going to be hard for him at all. In fact, when you watch Bill Belichick now in North Carolina press conferences and some of the things that student athletes are saying about him at the university, Bill's a completely different guy in the college, realm. Bill's like, you see him smiling a lot more. He's taking pictures with the recruits. He's having a good time. And I think that North Carolina, by getting Bill Belichick as their head coach, I think he's literally going to change that program right around immediately in their favor, and he's going to have an excellent an excellent coaching, debut as a college football coach, and I think it's a lot less stress. I can't emphasize that enough, too, is that it's not like the super stress environment you have to accomplish in the NFL. There's demands. There's time-sensitive decisions that you got to make. College football, it's a little bit more laid back. It's going to be basically like a vacation for him. It's going to be so easy for him because he has all the knowledge from the NFL. He's going to bring that to all the student athletes. He's going to have a pro-style team. Every athlete, whether you're defense or offense, you're going to be more prepared than basically anybody across the country to make the NFL. Like, that's going to give them a huge bump where teams are going to evaluate them at a later date, and they're going to be able to be ready. I bet you he'll coach them up with interviews. He's going to coach them with drills, all that good stuff. So I got no worries about Bill Belichick in the college football. He's having fun on campus. Yes, you're right, Christian. Absolutely. Christian said digging out college chicks half his age. Nope. Now, wait a second now. Wait a second. He has a girlfriend. He's pretty loyal to that girlfriend. And she is to him because he's making all that money.
Yeah.
Good old Bill. Good old Bill.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like the whole debate with coaches. It's very tricky. It's hard to do. Obviously, with the success that Bill Belichick has accomplished, winning all those chips, 6 championships, 9 conference titles, like that's pretty tough to argue against.
Yeah.
Like,
it's still fresh in my mind.
Could you consider him the best all-time? Sure. But there's always variables to every argument, and Andy Reid isn't far behind. Like, he's got 3 Super Bowls now. Might put an extra, notch in that and make it 4.
Yep. Yeah.
On Sunday,
he's definitely in the conversation to be one of the if you want to talk Mount Rushmores, everybody likes to talk that. So he's got to be up in the Mount Rushmore era, type of thing. So, but yeah, we'll see. That's a big game coming up, and we'll see how that plays out. Cooper Kupp, that situation is kind of funny, though, and we'll see how that plays out in the offseason, too. But somebody's going to have to take up some of that money here to get a deal done.
The Rams got to do that.
Yeah,
they got to hold on. They got to pay some of that contract. They have to.
All right, now some of the big news that's out there, too, is Justin Tucker all of a sudden. When we talked a while back, with the whole Deshaun Watson massage thing, it was like astronomical to think, players like this and blah, blah, blah. And then now all of a sudden, lo and behold, here's Justin Tucker.
What are you doing,
Deshaun Watson 2.0 here.
Yeah, what's going on?
And now more and more women coming forward. Now it's at 10, I think, now, too.
Yeah, it went from 6 accusers now to 10.
To 10.
Like, dude, don't be like Deshaun Watson. Like, what's going on here?
It's kind of a lot of the same stuff. With the allegations that's popping up, too. One woman even accounts that says that what did she say? That he stroked her inner thigh during a massage and left what she believed to be ejaculate on the table.
Oh my God!
So here he is, and is it funny how some of this happens like at the worst time for some of these players? Justin Tucker is having the worst career, like the season of his career right now, and here the allegations pop out even more, and this and blah blah, and what kind of dirtbag he is and things. And it's interesting to see how Baltimore is going to play this whole thing out because, again, Harbaugh's come out and said, "Hey, we're a zero tolerance type of franchise," and this. It's like, but you're not though. They've said that a bunch of different times, but if you remember back when they had Ray Rice and things like that too, they stood behind Ray Rice right to the end, even after they knew that he physically assaulted a woman. It wasn't until the video came of him knocking the woman out, and they even had a press conference where they even had her kind of accept some of the blame for it. But they're a zero tolerance, franchise, and they don't take any of this stuff, and they're standing behind Justin Tucker even right now too. So
at the moment, until they get more details.
I understand that too, but some of these other franchises at this point would already be like, all right, whatever, we're cutting them or we're suspending them at least from one point or whatever to see what's going on. And we'll see what happens because, some of this is money grabs. We get that, stuff like that too. But then, after the Deshaun Watson thing and stuff, I mean, it's all open. I mean, it could be any way around here.
Yeah, I mean, usually when these court cases pop up like this, and there's a lot of accusers all accusing one player of doing something that they shouldn't have done, and you gotta kind of wait. You gotta put it on pause. You can't really dive in and just kind of eat up whatever little minor details leaked out or whatever. You gotta wait and to see there's actual evidence of all this stuff. And I know that's hard to prove sometimes. It doesn't always get proven. Sometimes it gets swept under the rug. We've seen that happen in the past, especially with Ben Roethlisberger, in the rape allegations that he had. So Justin Tucker, yeah, the accusers are mounting up to 10 now at this point, but I want to hold and wait to see if any of this is legitimate, because sometimes it's a money grab. We've seen that before. I mean, even with Deshaun Watson, like, there was some evidence, but nothing that could really incriminate him. And there was a shitload of accusers, and they ended up all just getting paid off, and they were all okay with that. Like, to me, if you're getting paid off to just shut up, and you're okay with accepting the money, okay, that's fine. That's not justice. That's just you saying, oh, all right, well, if you want to pay me, then yeah, I'll drop everything. Like, so I want to wait to see what Justin Tucker's accusers, if it gets brought into court, if it actually holds water, if they're going to go forward with all this, and there is evidence, then yeah, he deserves everything he gets. And you're gonna be kicked out of the NFL, because, like, no team. You're a kicker, by the way, and I don't mean to demean that position, but let's face it, you kick a football, and there's a lot of great kickers that are out there in this world that are just can't wait, nipping at the bid to have an opportunity in the NFL. Your job isn't that safe, especially with how you performed. And nor would it be anyway if he's accused, if it all is true. The Baltimore Ravens, then you can expect them to get rid of him, cut him. They'll move in a different direction in that position, and nobody will ever sign him again. They'll be all over with, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, again, there's a apparent letter that one of these women too has written to the company and stuff like that she worked for, the QG or whatever. It's funny, some of these names of the massage places too, they got sketchy names all together anyways.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? The QG, the studio, blah blah blah, the G Spot. You know what I mean? It's like, what the hell? You're inviting some of this stuff, it seems like, but
right.
But yeah, I mean, again, we'll see. And I get what you're saying even too. It's like, if they're coming out now, why is it and stuff? Because, again, if it is true of what she said even too, and she did write a letter, and they're saying that they had suspended him from coming there and going there and getting massages, like, hey, you're not allowed here anymore and something like that. So if that even did happen, there you handled it. If that's the feel what you wanted to do. So now if you're coming out now, what is it now, especially now? Now you're looking for money now. Before it was just like, hey, you weren't allowed here anymore, and if he accepted that, he accepted that.
Right.
But now, if it's money you're seeking here, what spurred some of that here too? But so that's something again that's bigger out here. Another black eye in the NFL and another type of conspiracy here or whatnot and things. So we'll find out.
We'll
what
see if it holds water.
But Justin Tucker, getting older, he's off it's having a rough year this year. So
really
we'll see
rough
what happens if things turn for the better for him and things, or if the Baltimore Ravens cut ties with him or whatnot after all this. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with that. So, all right, amongst that story and others, Roger Goodell was asked about a bunch of different stuff because it is media week here. The Super Bowl's coming up. I know players and of all types, not even just the players that are playing in the game, but everybody's out there in Radio Row, Joe Burrow, everybody talking.
Celebrities, music
talking,
artists, like everyone's
and asked a bunch of different questions and stuff like that. But Goodell's out there, and, they had brought up, hey, 18, game seasons, things like that, and a bunch of different topics. But as far as 18 games, he's like, oh, yeah, I feel really confident in this and this.
It's going to happen.
But what's kind of funny, though, the NFLPA on the totally
like,
opposite.
wait a second.
They're like, No.
Hold on a
like,
second.
We wholeheartedly do not want this. Nobody wants this.
Nobody wants it. The players, none of the players want this. None of the parties involved want this.
Yeah.
Like this is something that is also just an extra challenge to overcome for even owners. Like they just have to dole out more money, and you know how, if they got money, not for nothing, but they like to be a little cheap with it, from time to time. And if it means that like an extra week that they're going to add on to, not only is my roster going to be depleted by the end of that season, because like look at now.
Yeah.
Look at now. Like we're in a 17-week season, and at this point, we see a ton of injuries on every team. Their injury lists are crazy. By the end of the regular season, it's nuts. If you have healthy enough starters, at least, that's a benefit, going into the postseason,
right,
if you're lucky enough to make it. But now you want to add an extra week on top of all that with how many injuries that have been mounting up. The NFL will tell you, hey, by the way, concussions are down from last season. That's fantastic, but overall injuries is way up.
Yeah.
It's not diminishing at all. And for the safe NFL league that Roger Goodell's been trying to create, you're still mounting up injuries. It's just going to continue.
Even continue on and even to the next season. Still recovering from some of those injuries, because,
right.
Again,
that's part of it, right.
But the season being longer, you get, injuries later on, and now it's carrying into the next season. So, it's something I think, again, the NFL is still going to keep pushing, but I think it's funny how the two different sides are on complete opposites, but Goodell's like, oh, yeah, it's a done deal.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I fully expect it to happen.
Right.
And the NFLPA with their players, I mean, listen, they are there to back the players. They're there to support the players, and they are saying as a collective, no, we don't want this. So it's going to be a battle, I feel like, between the Players Association and the NFL themselves. I feel like this is going to be one of those things that is going to be kind of spearheaded, especially when the CBA ends. The new contract, when that has to all be redone again, you're going to have some big talking points, some big challenges for both sides to overcome.
All right, Joe. Now, coming off of the Pro Bowl weekend, they don't even call it Pro Bowl weekend. It's like the Pro Bowl Skills weekend or something like that. And it is terrible. Like I haven't watched it in years and stuff, but I've seen clips of it. And if that's like gameplay of this game, dude, like they seriously have like a center that sits there and then a couple guys that go out, like that's not even like a flag game. That's not even a flag league.
Well, it is a flag league. Like, there's leagues
lame,
that have 7-on-7s, 5-on-5s. Like those are legitimate leagues out there. But the way they're doing it is because they want to be safe. Because they don't want them to collide anymore in the Pro Bowl. They don't want them, because people complained.
It's unwatchable
as fans. Everybody was complaining. Well, they're not really playing. They're out there on their pads and everything, and they're not really hitting, and they're not really doing anything. Like, what's the point of watching?
Look at what they did now.
So
now it's terrible.
So now you've changed. It's not the NFL game anymore. It's not the Pro Bowl game. Now you've led into another sport entirely. Like it's a flag football thing right now where there's hardly any contact, if any, and you got all these players that are playing different positions now. They're just kind of moving around. I saw, what was it?
It's buddy ball.
I forgot. Like if I remember correctly, there was like Jared Goff playing like corner or something. Like at one point, like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's the running back, was playing corner, had a pick six and everything. Like, so it's like, I get it. It's for fun. It's safer for them. But here's the thing: is the whole weekend is shot.
Yeah,
it's not like it used to be when there was a competition, like a skills competition. Right. They still have it, but it's still not the same.
No way. It's
like,
nowhere what it was.
There used to be for quarterbacks. Used to be like accuracy and everything, and there used to be throwing to wide receiver, like live wide receivers. Pro Bowl wide receivers who had the best hands, who could run the fastest 40. Like there was some really intriguing things, even for offensive linemen. They had the bench press, who's the strongest guy, in the league and all that. So they're kind of going totally away from that and going to this finesse, soft,
just
game
have
modes.
fun and not even do anything about it, and not even to show some of that.
I got to be honest with you. I didn't watch anything.
No.
I saw clips like on X. I'm watching like little clips here, and I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I'm glad I'm not watching it, wasting my time. Mm-hmm. But
one of the things I did see that popped up even on X, it was back when Tom Brady did one. A while back, though, when he was with the Patriots, stuff like that, where it was actually the real skills competition. And you got to see him scramble through a cone or whatever, then throw on the run and try to hit a target that's moving. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to see. I want to see some of the greats and see what they do. And head-to-head, him, Peyton Manning, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's what was always cool, because then you even got bragging rights.
Right.
I mean, you see what's going on even some of the Shador Sanders and Ward, training together and stuff like that, even right now for the NFL, and they're trash talking in front of each other while they're doing drills and stuff like that. Like, that's what we want to see, something like that. These guys are, want to see who's the better of the two, or kind of have bragging rights amongst each other, and having guys that aren't even deserving really of, in my opinion, of even being there, because other guys are even still currently playing in looking to go to a Super Bowl. So then they go to the next up, and then all of a sudden it's a watered down team of just NFL players. It's not even a Pro Bowl to me anymore. It's not the best of the best. It's just an NFL roster with guys who are just goofing around and fooling around.
And I don't
care about that.
The other issue I have with it too is that it used to mean something to become a Pro Bowler. Now it's like, oh well, I'm not going to make the Pro Bowl this year because I'm playing in the Super Bowl, so I'm out. Okay, that's fine. You don't feel like being in the Pro Bowl. Okay, cool. We're just going to supplement someone else in. Like the next runner-up, that you get to go. Now you're a Pro Bowler. Just because somebody said I'm out in the game or the skills, whatever.
Yep.
Like, I'm out. Okay, you're in. Okay, I'm out. You're in. And you're like, we're just giving away Pro Bowls now. It doesn't mean anything to be on the Pro Bowl team. Nothing.
Yep.
Because you're just giving a new Pro Bowl invite to someone because a current Pro Bowl player isn't going to be in the game.
Yeah. You're the fifth runner-up. Congratulations.
I don't get it. So like NFL,
participation trophy.
Help me understand this.
Yeah.
So if that player, let's just say Chris Jones, he opted out.
Yeah.
He's going to be in the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
They fill in whoever. Let's just say Jeffrey Simmons fills his spot. Does Chris Jones still hold on to the Pro Bowl nomination and Jeffrey Simmons?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or does he dismiss it now because he's out? Like, so they've made it to where it doesn't mean squat. You could have 12 Pro Bowls under your name now, in my opinion, in the current NFL that we live in. And when I look at that number, I'm like, okay, yeah, you were just given it because you were a big name, because you were a popular player. That's what it all is now. It's not down to brass tacks and just say, oh, well, because of your production this year at this position, you superseded all expectations. Even in the NFL's eyes, you deserve to be in a Pro Bowl. It meant something then. Now it's just, popularity vote, and because they're big names, and yes, they still have decent seasons, but there's some guys that go under the radar that get basically, ghosted on these votes when they deserve it more than the person that's in there. So I can't fathom the Pro Bowl anymore. I will not watch it anymore, and I don't really care how many Pro Bowls you have.
Right. Well, after all this now, too, it has spurred Roger Goodell to now apparently in the NFL that they are considering a pro flag league.
Yes.
Moving forward, which, again, depending on what this looks like, if it looks anything like the Pro Bowl, I'm not down for that.
No, it won't be.
But if it ends up being,
it'll be more
11 on 11 or whatever, and it's, a little more physical.
Yes.
And not even NFL players in it, but its own pro straight up flag players that know the game and, whatever. I'm interested.
It's going to be Goodell's claim that they're considering it, but they're saying it's an understatement, his comment, because it's almost a certainty.
It's a certainty. It's going to happen. Again, I'm
in the pro league circuit for flag football. There is nine man, and that's what I foresee in the so-called NFL flag football league, if that's what they call it.
Right.
That's what I foresee happening. Now, 9-man is very physical. 9-man, they play all the positions like normal. You have an O-line, a D-line, all your receivers, corners, all the sort of jazz. That would be cool. And the other part of this too is it's a little unclear when it would launch, when this is actually going to take place. It makes sense that they unveil the NFL branded flag football league in the aftermath of the 2028 Olympics, because in 2028,
right,
in the Olympics is when flag football is going to be installed into the Olympics, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It could be an avenue for older players from the NFL that retire, and maybe they still want to play, but without the rigors of getting hit 20,000 times in a game.
Yep.
In collisions like that. Maybe they could transition to flag football. Maybe it could be for younger players who just simply aren't good enough to make the NFL.
Yep.
But now they're studs in the flag football realm.
Yep.
And they can't find a home on a team that way. This could also be, here's the other concern. I mean, for me, it could prompt kids and their parents to avoid tackle football entirely. Because I know there's a lot of concern from parents that the collisions, the injuries that they could receive, the dangers that comes with tackle football. Like, now, are they going to steer their kids completely away from tackle football? Will tackle football die? I don't think it will die, but I think it'll be hurt.
I think it's going to take a hit. Yeah.
And with that being said, like, how much does that alter the crop of prospects now for future NFL teams? Another thing too is, in the event that advances in medicine reveal more and more about CTE and the short and long-term risks of tackle football, that could just even further implement into the parents, be like, oh, you know what, we're not doing this for our kid. We're not going to put him through tackle football. We're definitely put him in. If he wants to play football, it's going to be flag. Simply hoping to create and leverage a new revenue system. I think the NFL, this is why they're going to do it. Because, listen.
Oh, yeah,
face it,
absolutely.
Face it, the NFL is all about money.
Yeah.
They're all about ratings, popularity, money. It's all driven by money. And for Goodell to make this kind of like statement, like, oh, it's probably most likely going to happen, blah, blah, blah. We don't know when, but Roger, this is just an avenue stream, a revenue stream. It's just another way to make even more money that you don't need.
Yep.
And I think, is this being done for the right reasons, or is it being done because they see another avenue where they can make the NFL a little bit more popular with players, parents in the future, to be like, okay, well, if you don't want to play tackle, we have this other version of football.
Yeah. Well, I think so, too, because it opens up all the other avenues they speak of. One, opening up to different nationalities. Two, opening up to female players. How many female flag players are there that are even good, that are into football now, too? So
they're
they
really
can even
good.
see.
Dude.
Yeah, I know.
Dude.
So I even see this now. Maybe the NFL, not only flag league men's, but then women's on top of it, have their own women's teams and stuff like that. National exposure.
Yeah.
Then that in turn leading to potential, not even just flag coaches, but small, low-grade NFL coaches that are females or other minorities and things like that, to eventually learn even get into the bigger game and stuff on top of that. I mean,
well, that'll be a big hurdle.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's a completely different game.
It is, but I'm just telling you, it's another stepping stone, and that's how some of these coaches get there. Every little part matters, and any exposure to any other type of people, which he said even too, they're sticking to their diversity and inclusion type of scheme that they've been trying to do to try and get every type of person interested in this game and promote the NFL in whatever way that they can, shape or form. That's I see all avenues open on this one. That leads to a bunch of different areas.
I get that, but I would kind of push back a little bit on the fact of them making a jump from flag football to the NFL, whether it be coaching or player. Like you have talent.
No, I
like
get
there's
it
tons
there,
of talent. But
I would say more along the lines of coaching. No, I don't know about players.
I don't think coaching would even be close, because flag football is completely different.
Okay.
Completely different. And if they had an opportunity to coach at the NFL level, it would be as an understudy. There's no way you would make a jump from flag to the NFL and be able to be a coach, even an assistant.
Right.
So, and there's no, and honestly, like if you're going from flag to NFL, it's so different that coaching it would be like a foreign language. Like I think it would be too much of a hurdle to get some of the coaches from flagged up to par at the NFL level. And not just coaching, but also to be able to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a big jump for anybody.
All right. So, I mean, so that's something that's down the pipeline. You know, a lot of things have been discussed here by Roger Goodell this week. So here we go, Joe. It's time to talk about the big game that's going on this weekend.
Before we get to the big game.
What's up?
The NFL thinks that the new kickoff rule is working.
No, it's not.
Roger Goodell came out, said kickoff returns.
Working at what?
Were up 57% from the previous season. So the new kickoff rule has made more returns. 57% of them has increased by that much.
Okay, but have they turned into big plays?
No, that's not what they care about. They want the returns, so they think that the excitement is being infused back into the kickoff. They're saying it's working.
No.
I say, hell no. This is not what people want. You took something from the XFL that they were implementing, and you brought it to the NFL and said, oh, let's try this. This is a little bit safer. This is not as crazy. There were some cool kickoff returns that happened, but we want to see the full-on return like college football still has. You kick it off, you get to run it back as far as possible, you get tackled, whatnot, whatever. But the way they're doing it with this new kickoff rule, they're going to revisit this, by the way, in the offseason and have more discussions whether to make it permanent, because this was a trial run this season. I hope to God they don't make it permanent, because this is the most... I'm not excited to see kickoff anymore. I used to be. I used to be like, oh, man, will this team return it all the way? How far will they get? There used to be a little bit more excitement in it. Now it's like everyone's in close quarters. You got two lines 10 yards apart. Nobody can move until the receiving player catches the ball. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that 57% increase that they keep talking about, that's only because you're judging it based off last season where you really didn't have returns because everybody was kicking it through the end zone. Now you made all these rules, these new rules. You got to kick it into the landing zone. Otherwise, you could possibly be penalized. You've just made this way too more difficult. It doesn't need to be like this. Bring back the old kickoff style and let the fans be excited about it.
Yeah. I think the whole landing zone thing and everything, that's all stupid too.
Really
so we'll see. I mean, yeah, they're going to try and promote whatever they can here. And, I don't know. All right, so here we go. Super Bowl 59 is upon us, Joe. Here they are. It is the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs in New Orleans. If people don't remember New Orleans, when they had the Super Bowl, I think it was even last. It was when the Baltimore Ravens and 49ers faced off, and the power went out, and then all of a sudden it's a whole new game. It was crazy. It's like, so what are we going to see out of this one here? Heaven knows, But so, again, despite me not liking the teams that are there, I'm not surprised. Both teams had great records, dominant throughout the season. Mm-hmm. Kansas City Chiefs, they could have played for the undefeated season and stuff like that, and they didn't. They rested some players too. Suffered a loss to the Buffalo Bills in the regular season. And
they could figure out how to do that in the regular season. They just couldn't do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, plus they got a couple players back too for the team too, which ended up helping out in the.
Well, that's the funny thing.
On top of it,
is the regular season they didn't have as many good players when they played the Chiefs, and they beat them.
Yeah.
They get in the playoffs. They have a fully healthy. All the healthy starters are back. Everyone's on the same page. They got Amari Cooper and all that. And what happened? Did they psych themselves out?
Well, I think the game plan was off in that whole game too. They did not do like I've said time and time again, do what gets you there. Like, why change it up? You know, we've seen this happen in some of these big playoff games and in the Super Bowls as well. We saw it with Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl against the Eagles last time. Like, why is he sitting in the pocket and trying to make plays and things like that? You know, where's your pistol options and things like that kind of got you there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Be who you are.
Right.
The Buffalo Bills had 3,000 yards between James Cook and Josh Allen in the regular season, and you avoided the run pretty much for most of the game, except for the second half.
Yeah.
You got into it, but then again, when it was time to win the game, last drive, and you got 3 minutes to go, it's all you. You got this. You burn the clock down as you run it down because they weren't able to stop the run either as well. You saw that.
Yeah.
Why isn't
ripping
James
off 5-yard
Cook
runs
on the field? You know what I mean? Instead, it's Ty Johnson.
Which
and you're
made no
throwing
sense.
the ball. You've got time. Burn it down. You've got timeouts. You've got the 2-minute warning. You know, and the coaching was putrid. I think McDermott has a lot to answer for that loss with the Bills and the Chiefs there, too, on top of it.
I think McDermott definitely has some questions to answer for, but also Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator.
Absolutely.
Like that to me is where, honestly, the majority of the blame goes. Like for me anyways. Joe Brady not making the right adjustments in the game. Like, why were you running Ty Johnson more than James Cook? Which I don't understand the game plan there. I don't understand why that was a thing. Like, okay, I get it. Ty Johnson is a little bit bigger of a back, and maybe you thought you could just beat up the defense with him, but he's slower. He's not as quick. He's not as talented at all. And you had him out there on the field way more often than James Cook, which made no sense. When James Cook came in the game, he had 5 yards or more on a carry. You know, he's way more dynamic in the passing game, too. You still had Ty Johnson in there catching footballs out of the backfield. Why? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand the logic, the coaching decisions that were made in that game. Even Sean McDermott is to blame. Going for two, back-to-back times
early on,
when you didn't execute either one of them. So, but the other thing, too, is when you look back at the game, that was earlier in the game. Why are you going for two? Why are you panicking? Go kick the extra point both times, and if you do so, you're up by 3 after all that's said and done. Instead, you went for 2, didn't get any extra points. You kept it close when you should have made the better decisions. You didn't. You cracked under the pressure. So Sean McDermott is to blame for some of it. Joe Brady, I don't understand. No adjustments, like we mentioned with the running game and everything. And the plays were terrible. A lot of the play calls in certain situations, it made me scratch my head. And I don't have any hair, so I don't know if anybody notices that. But it's absolutely absurd. It's insane. This coaching staff in its entirety has to really sit down with ownership, with the GM, and they really need to have a good conversation because you could make the argument that, okay, Sean McDermott is good enough to get us to the playoffs and his staff, but is the whole staff good enough to get us over the hump against the Chiefs when we meet them again? Because they're not out of the realm of meeting them next year. And if you get, let's just say, for example, we'll kind of fast forward to next season. We'll just say Bills and Chiefs make it again. They face each other again. And the same outcome happens where the Bills lose to Chiefs. Sean McDermott's getting fired. There's no way you can come back from that again.
Fans were calling for his head this season after.
And he's even being questioned right now because, yet again, they lost to the Chiefs. Couldn't get over the hump. Weren't executing. Weren't coached up. Weren't prepared. There's all of those arguments out there.
And that's the thing that you saw when you watched that game. One team looked prepared and one team didn't. Like, the moment was too big all of a sudden. Even though they're trying to tell you so many times, hey, we're not listening to what everybody's saying. We're not here.
Right.
Obviously, you did somewhere. And
I'll tell you this. The Josh Allen that I saw play in the first half, very comfortable, under control, looked confident, looked good. Second half, when things got really dicey, really close, when a lot of pressure was being put on the Bills to come back, very nervous, very concerned looking, not as comfortable as he was in the first half, missing throws, doing things uncharacteristically in that second half of the game, which kind of led them to go 3 and out and not executing. Right. So, yeah, a lot has to be answered for in that game.
All right, so
sorry, I went off on a little tangent.
We did,
but
it was. I didn't get a chance to talk about it too because I was sick and everything too. So there was a lot on my chest.
Let's get back to the Super Bowl.
But that led us to where we are now with the Chiefs. On top of everything, all the storylines going all around the Chiefs here. Again,
big red machine.
A chance now to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Again, one thing you look at the Chiefs right now is their defense has always kind of been good but not great. Like they have some good players, but not stupendous. Like I mean, you like Chris Jones.
I like the front seven.
This is good.
I like the front seven. They're really good.
But again, not really crazy.
I would say corners are not crazy.
Right. Their offense though, again, one of those teams that plug and play at wide receiver, but the nucleus of where they are, that offensive line, and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes is that nucleus. And that's what scares people, the fact that they can go down and march and score at any given time. Their time of possession and between attempts and scoring is like number 1 in the league. So it is crazy. And this is why teams, when you try to play them, the key to beating the Chiefs is keep that offense off the field as much as you can, because they can burn you at any minute, whether it be Patrick Mahomes scrambling out and making a play with his legs, or getting you deep on a deeper route after, again, scrambling out. People move up on him. He's trying to do that pump fake crap that he does here and there, even though he's far past the line of scrimmage or whatever. And then, or even before when he does, it makes the big play downfield. They can score at any moment, so they are a threat to get you. So teams, what they have to do to game plan them is they really have to control the time of possession here. And I think the Eagles are going to make this a really good game and have the opportunity to do something like that.
Well, here's the thing that I'll say about the Chiefs offense. It's not as high-powered as it used to be. It's really not. They don't really attack deep down the field anymore.
A bunch of points scoring. I get that.
They don't attack deep down the field anymore. 27% of their offense is behind the line of scrimmage. Like that's an astounding stat. That's not even like, oh, it's only 27%. No, that's crazy. No team does that. None. But they're successful with it because defenses are scared to play up and pressure them, and their missed tackles happens all the time.
Yep.
And as fans that watch, whenever their team is playing against the Chiefs, it's probably the most frustrating and actually is to watch. And you're like, why aren't you guys playing up in their faces? Because the statistics are right there to see. Like, the coaches see all these stats. Yeah. They're game planning for the Chiefs, but yet they don't always stop the run. They don't always tackle the player behind the line of scrimmage or limit it to a yard or two. A lot of the times those plays that are behind the line, that start behind the line of scrimmage, end up 7, 10, 15 yards down the field. And it's poor defensive game planning on the opponents going up against them, and it makes you kind of scratch your head, and people are like, well, how do you stop this offense? It's really not that difficult. You just got to have the personnel to do it. You have to. You got to have the personnel to play man. You just have to be able to stay with Travis in the open field. You have to be able to kind of, even if you have to shift coverage a little bit to double team Xavier Worthy and how fast he is to maybe run down the field, but you got to limit them. You got to be physical with them at the line of scrimmage. You got to be in their faces and limit those plays behind the line of scrimmage to give yourself a chance to get them 3 and out almost every time.
Yeah.
And that's what defenses haven't been able to do up to this point. Now, the Eagles get another chance at it. They faced the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So they got a little bit of experience playing this team, but it was a different team back then. The Eagles look like they're a little bit more primed and ready with personnel. But then when you look at coaching, we talked about coaching earlier in the show. Bill Belichick, a great coach. Andy Reid, a great coach. Andy Reid versus Nick Sirianni. Sorry, it's full advantage Andy Reid. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches ever. Nick Sirianni is a great motivator.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him that. But I'm sorry, but the edge goes in terms of coaching staff and coaching. I give it to the Chiefs. So that's one thing that I'll say about this game is that coaching wise, they're probably going to get
the tape.
They're probably going to get a little advantage. Coaching goes to the Chiefs, and then when you get to the quarterbacks, that's when people keep making these comparisons, like Hurts versus Mahomes, all this stuff. It's both teams in general. Like it's a team game. So this matchup that we're about to see is going to be something special. I just hope that there's other extra activities that don't occur. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be polite about this.
Much like even the first game when they played in the Super Bowl before, a controversial touchdown late to win the game for the Chiefs, still people think about.
Yeah.
As far as the coaches, again, it's got to be Andy Reid at this. But one thing, and I don't like Sirianni anyways. I think the team is good, kind of despite him, because with the talent that they have. One thing I think maybe can be said about him that maybe I've noticed along the way, and again, I'm making an analogy again, and I'm drawing the 2 points, but I'm not saying they're the same thing. But for me, it seems like with the way the team is, the stars that they have. You hear about some even the attitudes, the egos and stuff like that. I think maybe Sirianni, his strong point is he is one of those guys that keeps the glue together, much like a Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mike Tomlin,
like a player's coach,
not your X's and O's guy or whatever here, but the player's coach that knows how to handle all the egos and here and that, and kind of keep it all in house to an extent. Yes, you're still going to hear, hey, I'm not getting the ball enough, and blah blah blah. Right. But he knows how to get him the best out of each guy, and you see it on the sidelines when he's even talking to Saquon. He's like, Saquon, what you think? Is it all right if I put this guy in here and want to get some touch? He's like, yeah, go ahead. And Saquon, again, gets the other running back in here. Let him get his touches. He's cheering him on. He gets his first NFL touchdown too in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's loving it. And this is that bond, and I think that's his strong suit in this whole thing. And that's good in its own, too, as well.
Nick Sirianni has a unique ability to have great relationships like a Mike Tomlin with his players.
Right.
And he even encourages, like you mentioned, Saquon Barkley. He encouraged Saquon Barkley to go for the record. He encouraged Saquon Barkley to go for, I think there was a touchdown record in the middle of the season that he could have obtained. You need one more. You want to do it? Go in there. And Saquon's like, no, I'm good. Like, you can let the other guys rock. Let the other guys play. And he's like, you sure? He's like, he goes, there's no problem. You can go out there and get it. And he's like, no, I'm good. Like, there's this unselfishness with this team that makes it special. Like this roster from top to bottom, they've come together as brothers. And you see this with every football team, but it's kind of like a unique relationship between coaching staff and players and players amongst each other that this Philadelphia city, the Eagles as a team, it really is the city of brotherly love, and that's kind of what they've honed in on and it's got them this far where they've really fought for each other all the way through this season to get to this point. I feel like they're more prepared now than they ever were with a better roster than before. Mm. And will that be enough going into the Super Bowl against the Chiefs yet again? The Chiefs, on the other hand, very different than the last go around between these two teams. Mm-hmm. Mahomes is different.
Yeah.
The offense is not the same as it used to be. It's a little bit more precise, a little bit more, intricate in how they attack defenses. They're not the drop back, 7-step drop back, and we're going to launch it to Tyreek Hill since he's not there anymore. Yeah. It's not that big, high-powered offense where they like to score fast and often. It's more methodical. Mm-hmm. It's long drives, and at the end of the drive, we're getting a touchdown, no matter what. Mm-hmm. So it's that mindset that they have now because they have a different roster that they've had to play with. And kudos to the coaching staff. This is what makes them so good. Defensively with Steve Spagnuolo, who, by the way, went for 2 head coaching interviews in between the playoff games. He's put together not only one of the best defenses But I feel like this year in particular, that Chiefs D is way better than any other team he's coached. Like, they all get it. They all understand the responsibility, where to be, when to be there. And they hardly very, screw up or make a mistake. That's what makes them so good on that side of the ball. And then when you look at the Eagles defense, Vic Fangio, new D coordinator this year, everybody in the offseason was like, oh, the Eagles defense sucks. They can't get it right. They need a new DC. Well, here comes Vic. And Vic, no matter where he's been, has been successful with defenses. The team that they've put together, with coming together with Vic Fangio, this defense, if you compare them from week 1 to now, very different in terms of execution, in terms of understanding this new defense. Even the 2 rookies that have made big impacts in the secondary, Cooper DeJean and then Quinyon Mitchell, rookie defensive backs. They're rookies.
Yep.
They don't play like rookies.
Yep.
So this is going to be an intriguing matchup for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got the best of both worlds here. Just when you look at with the Chiefs again, and the narrative there's coming in as the villains and they're taking it in and all that. Of course,
right.
We get, and a lot of people do dislike them because one, yes, the winning and people say, well, you're just a bunch of haters because we win and this. And that. But it's also how you do it and how you carry yourself about. You can win.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Joe and I, we're gamers or whatever. You could beat me at a couple of games or whatever. And this and that. And, that's fine. Like beat me on a guy, you're maybe even better to me at a bunch of different things, but if you're taunting me after every time or whatever, you're just in that, and then people are even saying, well, Joe is clearly better than this guy. This guy's a scrub.
Have no class.
It's kind of like, or even what you got was like all of a sudden you beat me on a glitch a couple different times too or something. And you're like,
hey, where'd you end
what
up?
the hell was that? Did you see that? What the hell was that though? Did you just all of a sudden, scope me somehow? Are you cheating? What the hell did you just do?
Yeah.
This is the controversy and everything that's kind of followed along with the Chiefs and why they've kind of played into this whole villain thing, with the ref controversy and stuff. And even the media has asked, Travis Kelce about it. This is what he's had to say.
Leaning into this whole ref thing. You know what I mean? Like, why are you guys leaning into it?
It's because former players that are even in the media now, color guys, Tony Romo, Troy Aikman even, you know what I mean? Tom Brady, of all people, who has been a guy who's been able to, be able to get calls, on his, been able to get things off of the good calls from referees and things like that, benefit from that. He's calling it out. He's thinking that a rule change should happen with some of the things, mannerisms that Mahomes has been doing. He's even said that, I actually flopped on that play. He's admitted it. Yeah, he does. He goes, I probably shouldn't have done that there. Yeah, no shit. And this is what you get all the time. And that's what I mean. And whether people whether they fall for it or not, if you're pump faking after you already crossed the line of scrimmage, again, that's got to be some kind of penalty in a sense too, because like you said, he's going like he's going out of bounds and then he does like a pump fake and then cuts the other way and goes back in. And so players are like, all right, was he going in? Was he going out? This guy hit him too hard. I don't know what him to do.
Yeah.
Because Tom Brady has also said that, hey, if you're a defensive player, you're taught to try and create turnovers. Turnovers are the biggest game decider of anything in the NFL. Game changers. Absolutely. Turnover. You win a turnover battle, you win the game. And this is what defenders are trying to do. And when you're in motion to try and create a turnover, you're trying to create an impact. And you can't go 20%, 50% pull up from where you are. It doesn't happen. So this is what's followed the Chiefs, and that's why they've kind of been on this whole, bad guy type of mantra. Their attitude that they bring along with it, and yes, they do have capabilities, but they're not the best, and they're not overall great. I think they're a good team, but they do have, their weaknesses, which I think the Philadelphia Eagles overall as a team, way more depth. I think a lot of talent still on top of it, and have the build of what it takes to beat this Chiefs team.
Yeah, I guess, when you think about the Chiefs here in this matchup, we talked about the coaching staffs. That's their advantage. That and defense. Like, it's clear. Like, the defense is their strength of that team. The offense, to me, in its entirety, including Patrick Mahomes, is their weakness this season in particular. Not in seasons past. In seasons past, you couldn't make an argument like, oh, well, Mahomes sucks. Right. Like, I know people say that because they're frustrated with him or he beats up on their teams, whatever. Hell, I've even said that. I'm a Raiders fan. Can't stand the guy. But you give him kudos where it's due. And he had phenomenal seasons with Andy Reid and that offense in the past. This year, though, I'm sorry. This year, he's not looking that good. Like, he's even missing opportunities with wide receivers wide open and throwing it in the ground and not reaching them or overthrowing them. And then he's had more interceptions in a single season than I can remember. I don't think he's ever had this many interceptions. And it's like this team, this offensively, this Chiefs team is one, we all know they're not the same. And two, I would argue that this is their weakest part of their team is their offense. Their defense keeps them in games, creates turnovers to give them ample opportunity to put more points on the board, or at least just to stop the other offense from doing so. Mm-hmm. So I got to say, like, I think that's what, for me anyway, in this Super Bowl, that to me is what's so different about the Chiefs. And you bring up the Eagles about how they're well-equipped now. The roster from head to toe is pretty solid, no matter how you look at it. Their defensive line is second to none. Their linebackers that they've acquired, Zach Bond having a phenomenal year, a career year, because he never had an opportunity to play in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. They drafted him and never started him. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. The Eagles pick him up in free agency. He's one of the best starting linebackers in football. How funny is that? That's got to be egg on your face in New Orleans, and he gets to play in the Superdome. So, but I feel like for the Eagles, like, I agree with you in the fact that collectively, if you're comparing roster to roster, the Eagles, on paper anyway, are better overall. Every level. Offensive line. Now, that's the other thing, too, about the Chiefs is everyone say, oh, they got a great O-line. No, they have terrible tackles. That's their huge weakness on offensive line. Their tackles suck. And if the game is called effectively and efficiently like it should always be, Juwan Taylor should be getting called for offside, should be getting called for false starts, for holding. Like, he's a terrible lineman. Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see if that all shakes out. But that's a big weakness of theirs is tackles. Now, you're going against the Eagles' defensive ends and their D tackles that are really good players. And Josh Sweat, he's licking his chops for this game. Mm-hmm. Brandon Graham, who's healthy and coming back in this game. He's excited and amped to another opportunity to win a chip.
Yep.
On the biggest stage. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I got to say, like, this to me, this Super Bowl, it's going to be a great Super Bowl. But I hope both teams play at their best. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want anything to be said after the game, but like, well, the Eagles looked like trash on offense. They couldn't get anything going. They couldn't score points, and then the Chiefs ended up winning 21-3. Right. Like, that would be terrible. Like, I just hope that both teams, that way no one can say anything afterwards in terms of performances from the two. Like, they both put it all out there on the field. They both played excellent football defensively, offensively. It was right down to the wire. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yep. Yeah, and that's me too. Again, I want to see health. I want to see everybody stay healthy through the game because I think that's been some of the defining factors in a bunch of these games. I think that was a factor in the Bills game. When they lost Bedard, that was it. Yeah. When Khair Elam went in, that's all they picked on.
Oh, he was terrible.
That was the game decider. Flat, bar none. That was it. That changed everything for them going forward. Last year with the 49ers, Again, injuries. It was starting
Dre
to pile
Greenlaw.
up. Greenlaw on the sideline.
He
Boom.
jumped up and down, got hurt.
and then there it went, and then
Terrible.
It's turned into
Changed,
other
yeah.
things.
It changed.
Then Kyle Shanahan on top of it, game decisions. All of a sudden, Christian McCaffrey is non-existent. When that's again what you were doing in the first half. Great, just controlling it, and again, that's what you are, and you go away from it. What's this? So again, you feed into what their defense is. So I hope, like you said, both teams are at their best. I hope that it isn't injuries that decide some of this too. Like, oh well, now they're kind of depleted here, so here we go.
I mean,
and
part of the game,
and we get that
so.
happens. We get it. I know, Joe. But then ultimately, we hope it's not again last minute bad call or non-call for the Chiefs or something like that, to which makes this a tainted three-peat or controversial thing for the NFL again, because they definitely don't need anything like that anymore on top of it. And for this to ruin it, I'm really disgusted with who's there and stuff like that. And it's tough to kind of have to pick somebody out of this one. But and we've seen some of the teams that on paper look worse win before. We've seen, especially the Chiefs. But I think overall, the Eagles, when you look at this team, they have what it takes, and if they follow their game plan, like I said, stick to the game plan. Saquon Barkley was the big changer with this team, not only with the ability to run. Now they're running the football, and that's their focal point of the offense, but it's changed Jalen Hurts. Look at him. He looks happier. He looks more comfortable. He doesn't have to do a lot. It's not all on his shoulders and stuff. So he can still make those plays, whether throwing or scrambling himself, even if he's injured. Doesn't matter. Saquon's going to take care of it. He's going to do it. They get along. He's found that buddy in the locker room on top of it to where they ride or die for this here. And I think overall they have what it takes. As long as they control the time of possession here and run the football, the Eagles have this game. And I'm predicting them to pull out a victory. And I'm guessing 30, 31, 29, somewhere around there.
Gotcha. I think that for this matchup in particular, I think because both teams now have a little bit of tape against each other, a little bit of familiarity, that this one isn't going to be such a shock for the Eagles this time around. Like, Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl numerous times, obviously, but the Eagles, when they first got there, I don't think they were unprepared, but they just weren't up to par, if that makes sense. Like, it was the first time Nick Sirianni's been there, first time that coaching staff collectively was there. They had a decent game plan, and it almost worked out in their favor. They had it at the very end, and they just kind of let it slip away. I mean, there was a controversial call in that Super Bowl, but not going to debate that now. But now, having been there, knowing what to expect, knowing the feeling, the environment, what's it all going to bring, I feel like they're going to be better prepared this time. And facing a Chiefs team that they have some knowledge of, that I think that the Eagles are going to be good. They're going to be good to go. They're gonna know what to expect. Saquon Barkley, it'll be his first time. Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell as rookies, first time as a rookie. How crazy is that to make it to the Super Bowl right away? That'll be something to watch for too, though. The rookies, in the big spotlight, the main stage, the last game of the season where it all matters. You can't screw up. You can't make a mistake, a mental mistake, a penalty that could cost you some significant yards. There's a lot of high stakes involved. So I hope for them that the game isn't too big under the lights for them. And I'll say for the Chiefs, they know what they're doing. They've been here so often. Yeah. Like, it's like second nature now to them. So they're going to be completely comfortable. I think for this one in particular, I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles. I think that the Eagles are going to be able to pull off a win here, get another championship, in their building. And I just hope, like you said earlier, I just hope that this is a fairly called game, They're not going to listen. If people expect that the referees are going to be perfect, it's not going to ever happen.
Yep.
There's going to be some missed calls. There's going to be some blown calls. Like we just hope that it's limited and it's not going to greatly impact the game and sway it one way or another. That's the only thing that I could hope for. If there is, in fact, those moments where it may swing the game in one team's favor or the other, then we're going to be sitting here next week debating it and talking about it. Was it fair? Was it not fair? Here we go again.
Yep.
Whether it be pro Eagles or pro Chiefs, it's going to be a topic. So I just hope that the referees are prepared for this and understand that, you know what, you don't want the biggest game of all to come down to question marks and poor play calls that can be debated one way or the other.
Yep.
That's the only thing that we're hoping here for. So give me the Eagles against the Chiefs. No, I am not picking the Eagles, by the way, because I'm a Raiders fan. I just want to make that perfectly clear. I really do genuinely think that they are better equipped to face the Chiefs and to edge them out. I don't think there's going to be like a big sway. They're going to win by 10 points or anything like that. I think it's going to be really close. And I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the scoring.
Yeah.
Because usually in Super Bowls, even if you have familiarity against the other team, it's usually pretty tight. It's usually pretty close, at least to halftime.
Right.
At least to halftime, and then maybe in the second half it kind of gets a little bit crazy.
And things,
right.
And things
so
start to pour out. Yep.
I'm gonna say 24-21 Eagles as a final. And I really do expect this to be close, kind of similar to that. And we think about like the Chiefs' last game against the Bills. Super close, all the way down to the very last few seconds. So it could be like that too. Could be even closer. Maybe not just separated by 3 points. Maybe it's a point or whatever.
Yep.
But this is going to be an awesome game. First and foremost, to the people that are thinking about boycotting the Super Bowl, I urge you to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
Because
just
these
get
are the
into
moments.
Gambling like I did. I mean, that's how I find it interesting then too. Because then
these,
if
these are definitely the moments that we look forward to. Because listen, we can come together whether you're an Eagles, Chiefs fan, or otherwise. We watch the Super Bowl, we have a great time, have some food, have some drinks, have some laughs, have some trash talking, and just have a safe Super Bowl, everybody out there. And if you want to further help support our channel, which we have been doing this for, which crazy, it's the 7th year that's about to be completed. Yeah. Going into our 8th off season, so make sure you tune in for the upcoming off season. We're going to go over free agents, maybe where they land. And then as we get closer to the draft, we're going to give you our top 5, top 10 for each position, all that. We're going to cover the draft from head to toe. Make sure you dial it in every single week. Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube for us. We really do appreciate it. We are kind of crawling and getting a little bit more subscribers every week, and it's appreciated. Thanks to everybody that's commented today. You definitely make the doing the show a lot of fun. And you can also follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I know that's kind of like the slogan now that everyone says, at FB_no. Really appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.
All right, sounds good. See you guys.
Join us next on Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.